Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Friday, November the 26th. We do have a big Friday night slate. We didn't have any games on Thursday for Thanksgiving, but we got a big slate for Friday night. We got 11 games, so as always, guys, we're going to go game by game. We're going to talk through each game on the slate and kind of break down each team, give my early thoughts, what does stand out to me looking at this slate on Thursday night. Then as we do go through each game, we'll kind of build out an early core, what I like as of Thursday night, what I like at first look, some guys that do stand out to me. But I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving, man. Hopefully you enjoyed the day with some family. And yeah, we're going to talk through this NBA slate. Just before we do get started, please guys, hit the like button down below. I do appreciate all the likes as always. If you're new to the channel here, click that subscribe button as well. And if you have not yet, check out the sponsor of the video, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a player prop based DFS site where you're basically picking the over or the under on players' projections. They already have some picks posted or some of their projections posted for Friday's NBA games. Obviously, this is not their entire board. They're going to get way more stuff posted. They'll have points projections, rebound projections, assists, three-pointers made. They'll have fantasy point projections posted as well. All that'll be up probably like early Friday morning. So if you want to head over to Prize Picks, take a look at their board, see what they have to offer, make some picks for tonight's games. If you do sign up for Prize Picks, be sure to use code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit. They will give you a free bet up to $100 when you do sign up with my code. And Prize Picks is very simple. Like I said, you just pick the over or the under on players' projections. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks, and you can win up to 10x your money on Prize Picks. So if you want to sign up, use code NOAH, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100. But let's take a look at Friday night's 11-game slate. We're going to start off with the Timberwolves and Hornets game. And right out of the gate, this is probably one of the more appealing games on the slate. Both these teams have been playing pretty fast this year. So far this season, Charlotte, they are 3rd in pace, and the Timberwolves are 9th. So these are 2 top 10 teams in pace. I do expect a very high-scoring game, so I think this is one we're probably going to want some exposure to. Starting off with Minnesota, Karl-Anthony Towns, 9,500, I think is a really good option here. Charlotte has been a team this season that you can definitely attack down low with big men. Mason Plumlee, Miles Bridges, they just don't have any good defensive big men. Nick Richards coming off the bench. These guys are not going to stop Karl-Anthony Towns. 9,500, the price tag on Towns has started to come down a little bit. He's kind of been disappointing. He hasn't really been justifying his price tag this year. We've seen some big games from Towns, but a lot of times, he winds up disappointing for what his salary is. But that ceiling, that 55, 60-point ceiling that we know Towns has, I think that's why you roster him, and especially in a really good matchup like this. Karl-Anthony Towns is a guy I do like in tournaments. I don't assume he gets any ownership on a big slate, an 11-game slate. So I definitely like Towns. I think Anthony Edwards is for sure my favorite play from Minnesota. He really stands out on this slate. Like him a lot on DK, and I think he looks really good on Yahoo as well at the small forward position, only $33. Ant's coming off a massive game last game against Miami, tougher matchup, and he just went out there and crushed. 33 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, a block, and 3 steals, had 69.5 DK points, played 43 minutes in that game. Anthony Edwards, he has shown a lot of upside this year. Now, can we expect him to score 60 DraftKings points every single game? No, but this is not his first 60-point game this season. He went for 67 earlier this year against Golden State. This guy can go out there and really break a slate in a good matchup against Charlotte in what should be a fast-paced game. I think we're going to see another pretty big game from Anthony Edwards. I think he's definitely too cheap right now at 7,500 just for how much opportunity he gets, how many minutes he plays. As long as he stays out of foul trouble, and this is a close game, Anthony Edwards might play 36, close to 40 minutes. I think he's got a lot of upside here. He's for sure my favorite play from Minnesota. But I think D'Angelo Russell is at 7,400, someone you could look to as well. He should get big minutes. I think Ant offers you a little bit more upside. Anthony Edwards is a lot more likely to go for 55, 60 DK points. But D. Russ has still been really solid. We've seen a lot of 40-plus point games from him. In a good matchup, he for sure has upside too. I think Anthony Edwards will be pretty popular today if I had to guess. So if you want to get some leverage, if D'Angelo Russell is going to be a lot lower owned, that's always a pivot that you can make in tournaments that you could go to. But we do need to talk about Patrick Beverley. So he's already been ruled out for this game, which is kind of big because Patrick Beverley does play a good amount of minutes. He's been starting and playing around 30, 35 minutes a night. With him out, with him injured last game, he only played 5 minutes before he got injured. We saw Malik Beasley play a lot off the bench. He played 38 minutes in that game against Miami and was really productive, had 39 DK points. He kind of shot the ball well. He, provided them a lot of scoring off the bench. I don't know if we're going to get 38 minutes again from Malik Beasley, but I think no Patrick Beverley is going to allow him to play more minutes. He was already playing around 20, 25 minutes a night off the bench. I think we might see closer to 30 minutes today in a great matchup in a fast-paced game at only 3,900. Malik Beasley stands out as one of these stronger value plays today, and there's definitely a possibility that he could start here in place of Beverly. I don't know who they're going to start. I think the most likely scenario is that they probably just go with because lately they've been starting Cat, Edwards, Russ, Beverly, and Vanderbilt. They could start Beasley. They could go to McDaniels. They could go to Josh Okogie, who was starting earlier in the year. But I think Beasley, regardless of if he starts or not, is going to be a top value play. So I like him a lot on DK, and he's minimum salary on Yahoo as well. So I think he looks like a really good value on Yahoo too. And then Jared Vanderbilt, his minutes have not been great this year, but he's been playing around 24, 26 minutes a night. He's played at least 25 minutes in 5 straight games. He's actually played at least 24 minutes in 6 straight games. I don't know if we can expect him to put up 38, 36 DK points every night, like he's done these last few games, but he is a relatively productive player when he's on the floor. The only thing you worry about with Vanderbilt is that he does struggle with fouls. Fouls has always been an issue for him. He does get in foul trouble a lot, but if he plays 25, 26 minutes, it wouldn't be surprising to see him put up another good game. At 4,700, his price has gotten to a point where I don't think he's like a glaring value, but definitely playable, even on a big slate like this. But Cat, Ant, and I think Beasley are my favorite plays from Minnesota, and then D-Russ, Vanderbilt, they're viable as well. Lots to like from this Minnesota team. But on the Charlotte side, there's some guys you could go to on Charlotte as well, like LaMelo Ball, 10,300. I've kind of been saying it every slate with LaMelo. He's got a lot of upside. We're going to see games where he disappoints and underperforms for his salary, but he's one of those guys that can definitely go out there and break a slate. Kind of like Anthony Edwards, he can go for 60 plus DK points any night. Without Patrick Beverly, I think that will make this matchup a lot better for LaMelo. Again, it's going to be a fast-paced game. It should be a high-scoring game. LaMelo is for sure my favorite play from Charlotte. Outside of him, I don't love too much else on this team. Terry Rozier's been playing really well lately, but I don't know if I really want to chase these games from Terry Rozier. He is someone that when he does get hot, when he starts scoring, you kind of want to play him when he's playing well. We've seen kind of Rozier is one of these guys that when he's struggling, he's struggling. But when he starts to get hot, when he starts to get in a groove, that's kind of when you want to play him. And he's been really good these last 2 games. Now, does he score 40 DK points again tonight? Probably not. But I think if he's going to play big minutes if it's a close game. Obviously, it's a fast-paced game. There's a lot of upside for a lot of these guys. If I had to play anyone from Charlotte outside of LaMelo, I think Rozier would be my next favorite play. That's probably it, though, from the Hornets. I don't know if I really like too much else here. I think it's really just LaMelo and Terry Rozier for me. But next game, we'll talk about Phoenix and New York. This is one that probably not going to spend too much time on. On the Phoenix side, everyone on Phoenix today, they feel priced correctly, and that's kind of been the way for these last few slates. Obviously, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, they all have upside, but where they're priced at, I don't think they really stand out to me. And then the same could be said for Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder, so don't really like much from the Suns. It's a big slate, so I'm going to definitely kind of speed through some of these teams. I don't want to just sit here and talk about every single player. I really want to just hit on the guys that I like the most. Phoenix, there's not much I like. On the Knicks side, we'll have to wait and see if Derrick Rose plays. If he's out again, we could look to guys like Kemba Walker or Emmanuel Quickley. Last game, I had a little bit of interest in Kemba once it was announced that D Rose was out. And pretty much him and Quickley just split the point guard minutes. You had Kemba play 23 minutes, wasn't really that productive. And then you had Emmanuel Quickley off the bench play 22 minutes. He had a better game. Like, my best guess is you probably are going to see Kemba and Quickley split the point guard minutes again if Rose is out. Kemba, I think, has upside if he starts off hot and he plays really well out of the gate. I think Tibbs will give him like 30 minutes, but if he's not playing well, we've seen that Tibbs will definitely play his bench guys a lot. So Kemba's a riskier option, but he would at least be viable if D Rose is out. But if D Rose plays, I don't love too much on the Knicks. Alec Burks and Fournier could be viable if D Rose is out. Burks played pretty well off the bench, 28 DK points in 26 minutes. At 4,600, his price feels probably about right for an 11-game slate. Evan Fournier had a great game last game. He's been really, really bad this year, but he played really well last game. 36 DK points in 42 minutes. I don't expect him to play 42 minutes again, but I think if Derrick Rose were to be out, that would definitely be a boost for Fournier. But I don't know if there's any standout plays from the Knicks today. Even Julius Randle at the top, 10,100. Like, on this slate, I think he's priced probably where he should be. He's not like a glaring stud option. I think I'd rather play guys like LaMelo, Cat, and obviously there's going to be more studs we talk about later. So move on to the next game, talk about the Bulls and the Magic. So the Bulls are probably a full fade for me. Vooch is back for this game. Vooch has come back. I think he played last game, but he just played limited minutes. Yeah, so he played last game against Houston, 26 minutes, was really productive in that time. He did foul out in those 26 minutes, but I don't know if they really planned on playing him any more minutes than that. I expect Vooch to probably play around 30 minutes here. Now that Vooch is starting to get ramped back up, that's really going to take away from guys like DeRozan and LaVine and Lonzo. I've been playing DeRozan and LaVine while Vooch has been out, but now that Vooch is back, just don't love anything here. I will say that, it's a revenge game for Vooch against his former team. It's a really good matchup, too. Orlando's been getting killed by big men this year. So if you want to buy into that narrative, sure, fine. But no standout plays from the Bulls for me. And then on the Orlando side, there's actually a decent amount I do like here. Now, we will need to keep an eye on the status of Cole Anthony. This is a really important injury. He was out. He's been out their last few games. He's questionable for today. With him out, we've kind of seen Jalen Suggs, RJ Hampton really benefit. Jalen Suggs, last game, got into some foul trouble, but still played pretty well in a good matchup against Charlotte. 30 minutes, 32 DK points. 5,200, his price has come up a little bit. I don't think he's going to be as good of a play today as he was last slate just because we have a lot more games today, and we'll probably have some better value open up as the day goes on. But Suggs and Hampton, in my opinion, would be they'd be viable if Cole Anthony's out. I think Franz Wagner just kind of playing for the minutes. Like he got 33 minutes last game. He's going to play probably 33 to 35 minutes a night, as long as the game's close and he's not in foul trouble. He's only 4,300. Another viable cheap play you could go to. But I really like the bigs here, and especially Wendell Carter Jr. Wendell Carter Jr. is only 5,600 on DK. I just think that's way too cheap for Wendell Carter, given he's a guy that's probably going to play 30, 32 minutes a night. We've seen his minutes kind of be cut lately, but some of this has been due to blowout. Some of this has been due to foul trouble. As long as he stays out of foul trouble and the game's close, I think Wendell Carter does play probably 30 to 32 minutes. He's a fantasy point per minute player. Chicago's a team that, they've been good defensively this year. They're a good team in general, but you can definitely attack them down low with big men. Like, they're not that great defending bigs. Now that they have Vooch back, their defense will get a little better defensively against bigs. But I think Wendell Carter at 5,600, just kind of banking on the minutes and the fact that he's a fantasy point per minute player, probably going to play 30 minutes, and he's only 5,600. That definitely makes me have interest in him on this slate. So I do like him on DK, and he's definitely in play as well on Yahoo. I think the price tag over there, probably a little bit too cheap. $21 for Wendell Carter Jr. I definitely like on Yahoo too. But Mo Bamba you could go to as well. I think his price tag's probably where it should be. I don't know if he's as good of a value as Wendell Carter Jr. is, but both those guys are in play for me. And obviously, if Cole Anthony's out, we can look to guys like Jalen Suggs, RJ Hampton. Suggs will probably be my preferred option there. And then Franz Wagner for value, I kind of like as well if you're looking for a cheap, small forward, power forward. We'll move on to the next game, the Raptors and the Pacers. So the Raptors today, I don't know if they're a team that I'm really that interested in. OG Anunoby's been out for their last few games. He could potentially play today. If he winds up playing, that's going to really lower my interest in guys like Pascal, Van Vliet, Gary Trent, Scotty Barnes. Precious Achiuwa did play last game, and he actually started. I'm not sure how he played. He played pretty well, 28 minutes, 28 DK points. If OG were to be out again and Achiuwa were to start, he could be a viable cheap center option, only 4,100. That's going to depend on Kim Birch's status. I think we did get word Kim Birch was out. I think I saw that earlier on Twitter. So as long as if Achiuwa were to start again, I think he would be a viable cheap play. But like Siakam and Van Vliet on this slate, I don't know if they really stand out as top options. Obviously, they both have upside because they're going to play a ton of minutes as long as it's a close game. But they pretty much feel priced correctly. Don't love much from the Raptors, to be honest with you. Now, on the Pacers side, Domantas Sabonis, I had a lot of interest in last slate against the Lakers. He had a pretty underwhelming game, especially because, you look at the stat sheet. I mean, he nearly had a triple-double. He should have had way more than just 41 DK points. Finished with 14 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. He did get into some foul trouble in that game. That game also went to overtime, which was just kind of tilting because the potential for Sabonis to go for like 50 last game was totally there. As long as he would have stayed out of foul trouble, he probably would have played like 40 minutes given that the game went to overtime. Sabonis at 8,800, a little bit of a tougher matchup against the Raptors today, but I still think he's viable. I think Sabonis is going to be a guy that consistently puts up 40, 50 DK points a night. And at 8,800, you could definitely play him even on a big slate like this. Same could be said for Brogdon. Both those guys just feel a little bit too cheap right now. But outside of Sabonis and Brogdon, I don't really have any interest in any other Pacers, I don't think. So we can move on to the next game, Atlanta and Memphis. So on Atlanta, you got Trae Young at 9,300. Trae Young's been a guy this year that I really haven't played much at all. On a big slate like this, Trae Young is someone you could go to in tournaments. He's coming off a massive game against the Spurs. This matchup against Memphis, I would say, is pretty favorable. This year, Memphis, they've been playing relatively fast. They've been playing at the 12th fastest pace in the league. And in terms of defensive rating, the Grizzlies actually do have the worst defensive rating in the league. So it's a sneaky good spot for Trae Young at 9,300. I think his price is probably where it should be, but we know he's got tournament upside. He can go for 50, 60 DK points. It's just, it's kind of hard to predict when you do get those games from Trae. But the upside is definitely there in a good matchup against Memphis. Same could be said for guys like Clint Capella and John Collins. In what should be a fast-paced game and what should be a high-scoring game, all these guys have tournament appeal. I don't know if there's any standout like core plays coming from Atlanta or any guys I'd be using in cash games, but I definitely like Trey and Capella in tournaments. And even if you do need like a value play, I think Kevin Huerter's fine. He should continue to start, play around 30 minutes a night while DeAndre Hunter's out for 4,600. If you need some value, I think he's playable as well. But that's probably it from Atlanta. Now on Memphis, John Morant, 9,600. Kind of the same thing we could say about Ja as we just said about Trey. Ja is unlikely to project well at this salary. Like normally he never projects well on any slate just because his price tag is always, pretty high compared to what you expect from him. But the upside is there. Like Ja Morant, most nights he's going to put up like 45, 50 DK points and just kind of be like a mediocre play at 9,600. But you'll randomly get those games where Ja goes for like 55, 60. He has that kind of upside. Against Atlanta, I think Ja definitely has upside here. Is he someone I'm going to play on this slate? Probably not. But obviously, like if you're playing a lot of lineups, you could definitely include Ja in your player pool. I don't know if he really stands out as like a core play though, or like a guy I'd be using in single entry or anything. Pretty much Memphis in general, I don't know if there's any standout plays. Triple J, been playing really, really well. He did have that big game against Utah. Last game against Toronto, kind of came back down to earth, but I think he did get into some foul trouble in that game, which is something that Triple J always struggles with. He seems to always be in foul trouble. But as long as he does stay out of foul trouble, I think we do get like 30, 32 minutes from Triple J. And we saw against Utah, 46 DK points, like he's got that kind of upside. Again, I don't think he really stands out as price tag, but still viable. The rest of Memphis, though, I'm not really on. Atlanta's a team that does play big. They're usually going to have one of Capella or Collins on the floor at all times. This could maybe be a spot where Steven Adams is kind of forced to play big minutes, bigger minutes, I'll say, just because they're going to need him out there to match up with Clint Capella. Maybe for 4,400 you could play Steven Adams, but that's not a guy that I'm very confident in. Overall, Memphis is not a team I love on this slate. I think Ja's playable. I think Triple J's viable. That's probably it, though, from the Grizzlies, I think. Maybe Dillon Brooks. But again, like he's probably just going to play around 30 minutes. We really haven't seen Dillon Brooks get a ton of minutes this year. He's been coming back from that hamstring injury. I think at some point he's going to probably get back to playing like 33, 34 minutes. But until that happens, he's kind of tough to roster at 5,900. So yeah, that's it for that game. I think we can move on to the Wizards and the Thunder. So this is a game that has some blowout potential. Luckily though, OKC's playing at home, which I think does help maybe keep this game close. Washington though, they've been playing really, really good this year. They've been one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, and they've been playing really good defensively too. Like this is not really that good of a matchup. I've been saying it in like all my videos lately. Normally when we see the Wizards, we think good matchup, fast-paced team, bad defense, but it's actually the opposite. The Wizards have actually been playing pretty slow this year, and they're actually good defensively. So we'll talk about the OKC guys. I don't know if there's a ton that stands out there. Now on the Washington side, Bradley Beal, you could definitely put him in like that Trae Young, Ja Morant category. Probably not going to project well for his salary, but we know Bradley Beal has massive upside. And against OKC, OKC is not a good team. They're bad defensively. Obviously, Bradley Beal could do well here. I don't think he's going to be someone that I play, but would it be surprising if he went for 50 DK points tonight against OKC? It wouldn't be surprising at all. I just think it's really unlikely that Bradley Beal puts up a good enough score that you have to have him to win tournaments. And I think a lot of that that could be said for a lot of these Washington guys. Like at their price tags, there's not a ton that stands out from the Wizards for me. I don't love too much here. I don't think so. We can probably just go ahead and move on to the other side, talk about OKC. Now, as I mentioned, Washington been better defensively this year, been way better defensively, playing at a slower pace. So the matchup against Washington is not really great. SGA is questionable for this game. This is a big injury we're going to have to keep an eye on. He's been out, I believe, their last 2 games. We've seen Josh Giddey be the guy that really benefits in place of SGA. He has started at point guard last 2 games and has put up 40 and 38 DK points. Those matchups against Atlanta and Utah haven't been great. I don't think this is a great matchup either for Giddey. But at 6,500, I said it last slate, even in a tougher matchup against Utah, if the game stayed close, I thought there was a good chance that Josh Giddey would have a good game for his salary. And surely enough, the game did stay close. Giddey put up nearly 40 DK points. He played 34 minutes. I think it's pretty likely that if this game stays close again, that Josh Giddey probably puts up a good game for his salary, assuming SGA is out. Now, if SGA plays, I'm probably just going to be full fading OKC. Like, I really don't like any Thunder on this slate if SGA plays. If SGA is out, I think Giddey's in play, and that's probably it from OKC. So next game, we'll go ahead and move on, talk about the Boston Celtics and the Spurs. So the Celtics, a team that I'm really not that interested in since they're starting to get healthy now. Jaylen Brown's questionable for this game. He did play in their last game. I'm assuming that he'll be able to play today, given that, they had a day off Thursday for rest. I'm assuming Jaylen Brown plays today. If he doesn't, that would obviously make Tatum look a little bit better. That would make Dennis Schroeder viable. But Tatum's 10K now. I don't think Tatum's going to stand out as like a top stud option at his price tag. Obviously, Tatum has upside, but I don't love him on this slate. I think I'd rather play guys like Towns and LaMelo, who we already talked about earlier. Plus, you have Dame and Steph. You got De'Aaron Fox in a good matchup against the Lakers. You got potentially could have Jokic on this slate. You got Giannis on this slate. Just don't think I'm going to go to Tatum. Jaylen Brown, he's on a minutes limit right now, so he's going to be a guy I don't really roster. Al Horford, maybe we could go to. We did get word that Robert Williams is going to be out once again. Al Horford should start at center, play around 30 to 32 minutes. He's been pretty productive starting at center. His price tag, though, is $7,600, I think is where it should be. So I don't know if there's any standout plays from Boston, to be honest with you. Especially if Jaylen Brown plays, I'm just going to be off this team, I think. Now, on the San Antonio side, I do like a good amount here. Dejounte Murray, tougher matchup here against Boston, but man, Dejounte Murray has just been so good. Like, even on days where, like, it's a tough matchup and he's facing, like, a tougher opponent, he seems to just still do well. I mean, you look at his game log. He's outside of that Minnesota game. Like, he has been amazing lately. 61, 60, 59, 54. He's put up at least 54 DK points in 4 of his last 5 games. He has shown triple-double upside. He's got a triple-double in 3 of those 5 games. I mean, Dejounte Murray, 9,400, even in a tougher matchup against Boston, I think Dejounte Murray is someone I do like in tournaments. I think I probably would be playing Dejounte Murray over guys like Bradley Beal and Trae Young and John Morant. Like, I think I'd take Dejounte Murray over all those guys today. If I was going to play one of these, 9K guards in tournaments, I think Murray would be my first pick. I definitely have some interest in him. And I don't think he gets much ownership either, especially given the tougher matchup, given it's a big slate. I don't see him getting a ton of love. Jakob Poeltl, though, is for sure my favorite play from the Spurs. I'm going right back to Jakob Poeltl. I liked him a lot last slate Wednesday. I'm going to play him again, I think. Yahoo, he's too cheap as well. He was $20 last slate, and I think he's $20. He's pretty sure he's $20 once again. Yeah, $20 once again for Jakob Poeltl. So we talked about it in my video Wednesday. Jakob Poeltl, when he's fully healthy and playing 34, 35 minutes a night, like, he should not be 5,700. Last game, he only played 29 minutes, but that game was a blowout, so we really don't want to look too much into that. I don't think Jakob Poeltl really played that much in the fourth quarter. He definitely saw his minutes limited because of the blowout, but I think if this game does stay close, we probably get 33, 34 minutes from Jakob Poeltl, and like I said, earlier in my video Wednesday, this was a guy that we were paying 7K for, 7,200, 7,100, because he, got injured, came back from injury, played limited minutes. His price went way down, 5,700. He's too cheap at 5,700. I'm just going to keep playing Jakob Poeltl until they price him up. I know he didn't have the best game last game, but you got to look, man, it was a blowout. He probably would have played way more if the game stayed close. He probably lost out on like 4 or 5 extra minutes of run just because of the blowout. So I think Jakob Poeltl at 5,700 is a really good play once again. Even though the matchup against Boston is not ideal, Jakob Poeltl's a productive player when he's on the floor. I don't usually get too worried about matchups for him. It's just, can he stay out of foul trouble? That's the one thing, but I don't think I'd be worried about that here. So Dejounte Murray, Jakob Poeltl, the 2 guys I like most from San Antonio. Outside of that, I don't love too much else from the Spurs. Keldon Johnson, Derek White, both fine, but neither one stand out. Devin Vassell did get injured last game. If he were to not play today, we can maybe look to a guy like Lonnie Walker for 3,800. I'd assume Lonnie Walker would get probably 25, close to 30 minutes off the bench. He could be a viable dart throw worth considering, but that's probably it from San Antonio. Now, next game, Milwaukee and Denver. So if Jokic winds up playing today, this should be a really good game. This should be a close game as well. Giannis, I've kind of been off of these last few slates just because, he's been playing against teams that, we worry about blowout. So his last 4 opponents are OKC, Orlando, and Detroit, literally the 3 worst teams in the league. Outside of Houston, like Giannis has literally got matchups against the 3 worst teams in the league lately. And he's been limited, some of these games. Like last game, he only played 31 minutes because, they won by 21. The other game against Orlando, he played 24 minutes because they won by like 40 or 30. He's just been, getting limited minutes because of blowout. But now we have a matchup against Denver. If Jokic winds up playing, I think this game does stay close to where Giannis probably gets back up to like 34, 35 minutes. Now, 12,200, this price tag is probably correct. Like, I don't think Giannis is a glaring stud option. But we know Giannis has probably the highest floor out of anyone in the league. Like, even on his bad nights, Giannis is still going to give you like 45, 50 points. And when he goes for 75, 80, which he can do a lot, he's likely going to be someone that you have to have. We'll have to wait and see what kind of value opens up as the day goes on. But I think Giannis is probably one of these safer pay-up options on the board, especially if Jokic plays. I think it makes it a lot more likely this game stays close. Giannis plays his full minutes, which does make him a strong pay-up option. The rest of the Bucks, though, I'm probably off of, like Middleton and Portis and Holiday. Now that the team's starting to get fully healthy again, like I don't really play these guys when Giannis is healthy. The only time I ever play Middleton and Drew is like when Giannis is out. And now that Giannis is fully healthy, these guys are priced correctly. I don't see too much else from Milwaukee that I like outside of Giannis. Now on the Denver side, again, we're going to have to keep an eye on the status of Jokic. So Jokic has been out for a while. He's been out for like 3 or 4 games. I think he probably plays today. There was a good chance, like he was warming up last game with, I think he wanted to play. I think he really wanted to play. He was warming up like with the intention to play, and then I guess they just decided not to risk it. Given they've had like 2 or 3 days of rest since they last played, or a day of rest, I think it is very likely that we do see Jokic back in the lineup tonight. And I think Jokic does play tonight. If Jokic does play, obviously coming back from an injury, you worry a little bit, but it was a wrist injury. It's not like it was a leg or a knee injury or anything like that. I don't think we should be worried about like a minutes limit or anything. I'd assume Jokic is going to be full go if he plays. He's probably a little bit riskier than he normally would be because there's always potential that he re-aggravates that injury and obviously could go to the locker room or something. But any slate Jokic is on, he's going to be a good pay-up option. I think Jokic, if he plays, is a really good pay-up option. Now, if Jokic is out, then we could kind of look to the guys that have really been benefiting without Jokic. Will Barton, Aaron Gordon, Monte Morris, Jeff Green. Now, these guys are starting to see their prices come up a little bit. I don't know if any of them would be like standout plays on an 11-game slate, but there would definitely be upside for Will Barton, Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon's been playing really well without Jokic, been really productive. Last game against Portland, he was pretty bad. But you saw those 2 games against Phoenix and Chicago, 49 DK points, 38 DK points. Fine option. I don't know if there's going to be any standout plays from Denver, though. Even if Jokic is out, I don't love these guys just given where they're priced at. I know Jeff Green had like a massive game last game, but I doubt I'm going to chase that. His price is up to $4,500 now. I think for me, it's just wait and see on if Jokic plays, and if he does, I think he'll make some sense as a really low-owned tournament option. I doubt anyone will play Jokic on this slate. But that's probably it for Denver. We can move on to the next game, the Pelicans and the Jazz. So this is one we can probably just kind of fly through. I really don't like anything on the Pelicans here. It's a tough spot on the road against Utah. There's some blowout potential in this game. J-Val and Brandon Ingram both have a lot of upside. Neither one, stand out on this slate. It's a tougher matchup. J-Val's going to be going up against Rudy Gobert. Don't love that for him. Brandon Ingram, at 8K. Price tag feels about right for this matchup, so I just don't like much on the Pelicans, I don't think. The Pelicans might be a full fade for me. I know not Devontae Graham, but Josh Hart's been playing really well lately, been getting big minutes. Again, matchup on the road against Utah. Doubt I really play Josh Hart on this slate. I'm probably going to full fade the Pelicans, to be honest with you. Now, on the Utah side, better matchup here for these guys against New Orleans. But given where everyone's priced at, like Utah's a team, when they're fully healthy, I just rarely play these Utah guys. Rarely are they players I build around, and especially on an 11-game slate, I doubt I'm going to have like any Utah guys in my main lineup. So Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, like these guys have upside, but they never really project well for their salaries. They're going to be low owned, so there's always some tournament appeal for them, there's always some tournament interest for them, given they're going to get low ownership, but I doubt I really play anyone from Utah either. This game might just be like a full fade for me. Don't love it much here. Given where everyone's priced at, nobody stands out in this game, I don't think. So we can move on to the next one, Portland and Golden State. So on Portland here, Damian Lillard, 9,800, I think makes for a pretty good option against Golden State. This is definitely a big-time game. I think this is a game that Damian Lillard is going to get up for and play really well for, or try and play really, really well in. This should be a close game too. Golden State, they've been playing really good defense this year. They've been a really good defensive team, but they do still play at a really fast pace. They are playing at the 6th fastest pace in the league. This should be a pretty fast-paced game in general. We know Dame's going to play massive minutes if it's a close game, which this should be. I think we're going to get like 38 to 40 minutes from Dame. He's been playing a lot better lately. I mean, you look at the game log, at least 47 Draftkings points in 4 of his last 5 games. He's got 2 games over 56 DK points. At 9,800, I like Dame quite a bit. I think he's definitely a good pay-up option. I think CJ is fine as well, but between the two, I would much rather play Dame. Yusuf Nurkic had a massive game last game against Sacramento. Finally got big minutes, played 32 minutes, had 59 Draftkings points. Like, Nurkic is one of these guys, man, that when he gets minutes, he can absolutely crush. I've been kind of saying that about Nurkic basically every single slate. His minutes have been cut down. I don't really know why. I guess they just want to play small ball. They want to give minutes to Larry Nance. They want to give minutes to Robert Covington. But I think Nurkic, when he's out there playing 30, 32 minutes, he's going to produce, at a high rate. 6,200 is way too cheap for Nurkic if he plays 32 minutes again. That is the big if. I have no idea if Nurkic plays 32 minutes again. Golden State's a team that they do like to play small. They're a team that, rarely are they going to have a traditional center out there. Kevon Looney will probably play like 20 minutes, but outside of that, you're going to see a lot of Draymond at center. This could definitely be a game that winds up going small, and maybe Nurkic only plays like 23, 24 minutes, but if by some chance he gets like 30, 32 minutes, I mean, we could see Nurkic go off again. And at 6,200, like his price is still cheap enough that I think Nurkic is a really good tournament play. He probably gets more ownership today because he went off last game. But even if he's going to be, 10, 15% owned, I still think Nurkic is a pretty good play. If he starts to get like 25, 30% owned, then that's a guy you can kind of just fade and hope that they just play him 23, 24 minutes. But he definitely has massive upside if they continue to give him 30-plus minutes. It's just, will that happen? I really don't know. But I definitely like Nurkic a lot. I think Dame's a good play too. The rest of the Blazers, I don't love. Norman Powell, Robert Covington, I think are fine plays, but probably guys I would only be considering like in the late night slate. I doubt I would be playing them on the main slate. I don't think. So we can move on to the Golden State side. I think talk about the Warriors. So with Golden State, for me, it's pretty clear when it comes to this team. It's really just Steph and Draymond, and that's probably the only guys I'm considering. Steph at 11,400, I definitely like here. Good matchup against Portland. Portland, defensively has not been good this year. Dame, CJ are both really not that, they're not great defenders. This is a matchup where Curry does have a lot of upside. I could definitely see in tournaments, normally I don't stack in NBA, but I think if you wanted to do a Dame Curry stack and just hope this game winds up being super high scoring, which it could, hope this game stays close. Hopefully those are the two guys that are, doing all the scoring. I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the night if Dame and Curry are both in the winning lineup. So I think Curry at 11,400 as a pay-up option does make some sense now. I think Giannis and Jokic probably are better plays. I think they're going to project better. I think they give you higher floors. But we know Steph has a lot of tournament upside, and we know he has slate-breaking upside. And in a good matchup against Portland, it would not be surprising to see Steph put up a big game tonight. So I definitely have interest in him. And then I think Draymond at 6,700. Draymond, we haven't really seen much of a ceiling from him. He's been pretty consistent. He's given you at least 30 DK points in 6 straight games. But, out of his last 10 games, his best game out of his last 10 is like 35 DK points. Obviously, at 6,700, we want more than 35 DK points. I think just kind of banking on the raw upside that Draymond has, just the triple-double upside he has, is still fine. He's really not – he's never going to project well at his salary. He's never going to be a guy that gets much ownership, especially like on a big slate like this. Nobody's going to play Draymond. But we've seen Draymond can go for a triple-double any night. Even though he's not like an aggressive scorer, he just does so much else with rebounds, with assists. He gets a lot of defensive stats that – he can still put up 50 Draftkings points even if he doesn't score a lot of points. Even if he only scores like 4 points, he can still get 13 rebounds, 12 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. So that alone does make Draymond a viable, GPP play at really low ownership. A good matchup against Portland, I think, there's definitely upside for Draymond here. If this game stays close and it winds up being high scoring. But that's it for this game. We'll move on to the last game of the night, the Kings and the Lakers. And this is another game that I have a lot of interest in. These are two teams that have been playing really, really fast this year. So far, the Kings, they are playing at the, let's see, where's Sacramento at? They're playing at the 10th fastest pace. The Lakers are playing at the 2nd fastest pace. So this is another game where you have two top 10 teams in pace. De'Aaron Fox, a guy that I was very high on Wednesday in a good matchup against Portland. He got off to a really hot start. He had like 25 DK points at halftime, and then he really cooled off in the second half, and then he wound up getting ejected too. So, we ran really bad to only get 32 DK points last game from Fox. He was definitely on pace to have a massive game. I'm fine going right back to him here. 7,700, the price tag still didn't move. It's a great matchup against the Lakers. We've seen guards have big games against the Lakers this year. The Lakers really, they don't have any good defensive guards. Avery Bradley at this point in his career is not really someone I'd be worrying about on the defensive end. Malik Monk, THT, Russ, obviously none of these guys are like shutdown defenders. The Lakers play fast. They've been bad defensively. I love the spot for De'Aaron Fox. I'm fine going right back to him. I think he really looks like a good play once again. And his Yahoo price is once again the same as it was Wednesday, $33. Like him over there as well. I think he'll definitely be a lower owned play, so someone you could look to in tournaments. He was pretty low on last slate. He had like 10% ownership, I do believe. Probably will be similarly owned today, if not lower than that. So I like Fox a lot in tournaments, and then we're going to have to pay attention to the injury report for Sacramento because Rashawn Holmes was out last game, and we don't know yet his status for this game. And then Harrison Barnes he got injured in last game. We don't have an update on him yet either. So we can kind of talk about if these guys are out, who really benefits. So if Rashawn Holmes is out, we did see Alex Len draw the start at center. Alex Len did actually play a good amount of minutes, or he actually only played 17 minutes. I thought he played way more than that. I could have swore that like Alex Lynn or one of the bigs played a lot. So Bagley played 19, Lynn played 17, and Thompson played 12. So they basically ran like a 3-man committee at center. You had Bagley play the most minutes, then you had Lynn play 17 and Thompson play 12. That's not great. Do they run like a 3-man committee at center again if Holmes is out? They could. Marvin Bagley is a guy that is really productive when he gets minutes. We've seen him get back in the rotation and start to get consistent minutes. Obviously, his minute ceiling is not that high, but I think if Rashawn Holmes were to be out again, like there's definitely a possibility that like Marvin Bagley comes off the bench, plays really well, and gets like 25 minutes. If he were to play anywhere near 25 minutes, he would very likely do really well at his salary. It's riskier because anytime you have a team running like a 3-man rotation at one position, it just makes it so tough to go to those guys in DFS. But if Rashawn Holmes does get ruled out again, I think we will see probably 20 minutes from Marvin Bagley, maybe 18 to 20 from Alex Lynn, and then maybe Tristan Thompson gets a little bit. I think Bagley and Lynn would be the two guys I'd really want to roster. Don't know if I'd be going to them on the main slate, honestly, but maybe like the late night slate, you could definitely play those guys. And then Harrison Barnes, if he were to get ruled out, Harrison Barnes is a guy that does play a lot of minutes, so I think there'd be more minutes available for guys like Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield. I think Harrison Barnes being out would definitely benefit Marvin Bagley as well, because they will play, or they can play Marvin Bagley at the 4. Last game, I think they just played him at center. He was basically they, like I said, they ran a 3-man committee at center, but they can definitely play him at the 4 some. The Lakers are a team that they do play big. As long as AD is out there, you'll probably see one of AD or DeAndre Jordan or Dwight Howard on the floor at all times. So maybe Marvin Bagley would play some more minutes. If Barnes were to be out, that would definitely make me feel a little bit better about him. And then I'm assuming probably like Mo Harkless would start in place of Harrison Barnes. I think he's actually been starting lately, if I do remember. I think they did change up their starting lineup. Harkless probably wouldn't really be DFS viable, but there would definitely be a few more minutes available for him if Barnes is out. I think Fox, though, really stands out as a good play from Sacramento. If Holmes and Barnes are both out, I think Marvin Bagley would be a pretty good play too. And then Halliburton, Buddy Hield, I think are fine tournament options. Neither one stand out as core plays or like cash game plays, but definitely guys you could go to in GBPs and in what is a really good matchup in what should be a high-scoring game. But on the Lakers side, talking about the Lakers real quick before we end the video. So we saw last game Anthony Davis got ruled out with an illness. We don't have an update yet on his status for Friday's game. I'm assuming AD will be back. That was a back-to-back against... They played the Knicks on Tuesday, and then they had to play again Wednesday against the Pacers. I think they just sat AD because it was a back-to-back. Since they've had a full day to rest up, I'm assuming AD will be back in the lineup today. And if he is, I really don't have any interest in any Lakers. Where they're all priced at, when Westbrook, AD, and LeBron are all healthy, it's going to be tough to predict which one of those guys had the big game on a nightly basis, if any of them do. And given where they are all priced at, like none of them are going to stand out at their price points. And then the same could be said for like THT and Carmelo and the rest of these guys. The only way I'd be rostering any Lakers today, I think, is if Anthony Davis gets ruled out again. And if he does, we could look to Westbrook. We could look to LeBron. LeBron did have a great game last game without AD. Played 43 minutes in overtime, had 61 DraftKings points. I would definitely like LeBron a lot here if AD's out, but obviously only going to consider him if that's the case. Then you could maybe go to like THT or Carmelo if AD's out. You could go to the bigs too. But I probably won't be going. I don't think we need to get that thin on a bigger slate like this. Those guys I thought were in play last slate. On this one, probably wouldn't be going to them even if AD sits. I think if AD sits, LeBron will definitely be my favorite play from the Lakers. But yeah, guys, that's it for this big Friday night 11-game slate. I hope you guys enjoyed this game-by-game breakdown. I hope it helped. If you enjoyed, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. If you haven't yet, check out the sponsor of the video, Prize Picks. Again, you can check out the Prize Picks board for Friday night's games. You can see everything they have to offer and make some picks for yourself. Potentially could win up to 10x your money on Prize Picks. If you want to sign up, if you have not yet, sign up, use code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit, give you a free bet up to $100, and you can go make some picks for yourself for tonight's games. But good luck tonight, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you did enjoy. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.